Please remember that all content discussed on this show is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized financial, investment, or tax advice. The views expressed by our host and guest are their own and may not reflect the official position of DAG Wealth. Always consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions. Enjoy the episode.
Should be a good one for y'all. Tom's got some pretty good stuff prepared around the financial planning stuff that we do for our clients at Digital Ascension Group, and he's going to be walking you guys through the 5 pillars of what we think through on how that's structured. This is a product that we brought to market for our client base. I don't know, what would you say, Tom? About a year ago?
Yeah, pretty much almost exactly.
Yeah. So it's about the time that Tom came on. He is our head certified financial planner. So maybe that's a good place to start for people. Just a little bit of your background. We've done one of these before, but I think that's helpful for context. And then we'll jump into all the stuff that you have planned for us.
Yeah, so I'm sure it's kind of, I'd be interested to hear like when people join this, you're like, oh, it's the financial planning guy again. Right? We're gonna listen to this guy. But yeah, I think like I've mentioned before, and I apologize if people have heard kind of my background, but I came over from the traditional finance side. Worked for firms where financial planning was kind of a core offering of what we did for clients. Now we're bringing that to the DAG Wealth and DWP side of things. So again, I'm big on financial planning, super biased. I think everybody should have a financial plan, whether you're just coming out of college or you're 80 years old, everywhere in between. Big on planning. I've never built a plan for a client and have them come back and say, well, that was completely not worth it. So far so good on that streak. So yeah, we again, for me, I hope at some point in the future we've built plans for every one of our clients. I think that would be truly valuable for everyone. The the webinar today, my goal with that is, and I'm you get this question a lot too, I'm sure, Jake.
Yeah.
We get the question all the time as advisors, like from clients or prospective clients, what should I be doing? I've got these assets, but I'm really not sure what should my roadmap look like? What should I be doing now? And so part of this, or really the focus of this presentation, is to give you an idea of what things you should be, looking at or considering. I will, make one other kind of clarification. Financial planning and all these financial pieces. It's not that advisors. Well, I don't want to speak for all advisors. It's not that we're geniuses on any level. It's just we deal with this stuff on a day-to-day basis, and things change so often, and there's so many nuances about planning, estate planning, tax planning, asset allocation, and we just live in it every day. So for us, it's very easy to help clients again lay down a foundation, build a plan. But for people, they're doing their everyday jobs, they're living their everyday lives. Things are chaotic. They got kids, they got all kinds of stuff going on. It's hard to like put the time and effort into focusing on their financial situation. And again, all the nuance pieces that we need to worry about. So that's, like I said, the goal today, kind of give you a foundational view of things to think about. And then, if you have more advanced planning needs or feel like you need a wingman, we have advisors and we have a planning team ready to help.
Yeah. It's a holistic view, right? So you're looking at taxes, you're looking at the estate plan, you're looking at how all the investments or whatever financial means somebody has, projecting forward cash flows based on the situation that they have coming up. Some people want to plan for a vacation. I know it's
Yeah.
summertime, right? There's a lot of people that are taking those. You might have your child going off to college. You have retirement. You have all these life events that occur that sneak up on people. And if you're not prepared for them, come with some additional obligations, or maybe you thought you were going to be prepared and then you're, behind the 8 ball and you don't have the amount of cash flow or whatever you're going to need in order to supplement whatever expenses you have at the time or manage your lifestyle. So I'll let you take it away and go through the 5 pillars, and excited for everybody to join in. And again, like I said, it'll be recorded and passed out to everybody after.
Okay. Before I launch the presentation, I've been asked to read some disclosures. Jake's got these things memorized. I have to read it off, so just bear with me for a second. But this presentation is provided by DAG Private Client for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing here is investment advice, securities recommendation, or a solicitation. DAG Private Client provides administrative and support services only. We do not provide investment advisory, brokerage, or insurance services. Those services are provided separately by our affiliates, Digital Wealth Partners, an SEC registered investment advisor, and DAG Insurance. Any content touching on digital assets is for educational context only. Digital assets carry substantial risks, including extreme price volatility. We're all aware of that. Potential total loss of principal, cybersecurity risks, and regulatory uncertainty. Past performance does not predict future results. Conflict of interest among our affiliates are disclosed in Digital Wealth Partners Form ADV, available upon request. Please consult your own legal, tax, and financial professionals before making any financial decisions. And the webinar will be recorded. So, yeah, props to you, Jake, for remembering to say that all the time and having it pretty much memorized. So let's bring up the presentation here. Let me share my screen.
While he's getting that done, I just want to say, this is going to be relevant for everybody. I do think everybody needs a financial plan. But I would say that if you have a little bit more complex situation, you might have other assets, homes, business. The more things you have, they talk about more money, more problems. Which champagne problems. If you got more money, I get that. It comes with more taxes and other things as well. This is probably, it's a really good framework for those people to start having that conversation, maybe with your family, and then, come to somebody like Tom or somebody on our team or your traditional wealth manager with this conversation as well.
Greatly done. Can you see that okay, Jake? Does that
Sure can.
you see the
Looks great.
presentation? Okay.
The wrong logo on there, Tom.
I know it. We're we're waiting for the full transition, but we're excited. So yes, I've kind of outlined the goal of the presentation. When we say beyond the number, and you guys have again heard me harp on this too, if you've listened to me, we don't focus on like total net worth numbers. We focus on living the life you want to live, and how do we generate, to Jake's point, the cash flow to help you do that. So um, again, hopefully this is a useful framework, not individual investment advice. So one thing to make clear for everybody is there's kind of two pieces to your wealth. There's building wealth, and then there's protecting it. And depending on what phase of life you're in, you're going to have different views on where you think you should be focused. But keep in mind, it's two separate skill sets. Some of those skills just come, the protection piece and a focus on that. A lot of it comes with age. So I'm on the older side of the spectrum in the company. So I'm over 50. So just naturally, I start thinking more about on the protection side, for our younger clients. I mean, even, younger families, whatever it might be, that they're more focused on the growth side of things, which again, perfectly normal, but those things will change depending on what your goals are. I think just another key takeaway here is on the growth side, our clients, and I'm sure people listening, they have a wide variety of assets that they hold, some more concentrated than others. But always important to keep in mind the difference between risk tolerance and what we call risk capacity. So you may think that you're very tolerant of taking risk, but you may not have the financial capacity to take a lot of risk. An example would be somebody who's a simple one, 65, who's on the verge of retirement. Their risk capacity is much lower, right? They need to start thinking about preserving wealth over the long term. So while they may think that they're risk tolerant, they don't really have the capacity to take a lot of risk, or they probably shouldn't. So always good to, again, from a check-in standpoint, like you said, sit down with your spouse, family. Always good to make sure everybody's on the same page, and just understand where you are from a risk capacity versus a risk tolerance standpoint. Other than that, we as advisors on the DWP side, we do focus on long time horizons. Even at 65, we plan for people to live into their 90s. So that's an additional 30 years of planning and cash flows that we need to make sure are available when you need it. I think one thing the markets are teaching us, whether you're on the traditional side or on the digital asset side, is patience. We don't always want to learn that lesson, but it sometimes it forces us to be more patient. So we always focus on long term or longer time horizons. And then just quickly touching on the coordination and protection side, or on the protecting piece. You need to be good at playing offense and defense. So building wealth is good, but always keeping an eye on the defensive part of your plan is important, because we want to protect what you've built. So let's get into the 5 pillars. The first pillar, and again, Jake references to this one earlier. So cash flow. Cash flow is really the foundation of financial planning. It's the foundation of what we're building for, so that you have cash flow in the future. Now, goals come in because goals are cash flow based. Really aren't many free goals out there, or goals that don't cost money. Being charitably inclined, it's going to cost you money. Paying for college, taking trips, supporting family, whatever it might be. All those goals are going to be cash flow based or cash based. So we want to know what those are. And if you can sit down, again, if you're single, great, sit down and write down your goals. If you're married, sit down with your spouse, write down your goals, so you have a sense of, in the future, what type of cash flow needs you think you might have. The next one is being tax efficient. We'll talk more on the tax side of things. Nobody likes paying taxes, especially not extra taxes. So trying to be as efficient as you can, especially when you're starting to spend from assets, is important to make your money last. And we'll touch on this, one of the largest expenses in retirement can be taxes. Retirement income planning. So again, there's phases to life. There's the growth phase, and then there's the decumulation or the spending side. So planning your income in retirement, again, is critical to making sure, or making the most of your money, making it last. What accounts do you pull from, and when? Do you have a series of years with low income where you can capitalize on that, do Roth conversions? And again, just look across your entire portfolio to make sure that you're doing your decumulation plan, or your spending plan is as efficient as it can be. And then the last 2, estate planning and wealth transfer. So this comes back to protecting what you have. Certainly, we don't want any unexpected bad events to happen, but they do. We see it as advisors, unfortunately. And so we want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. We know many of our clients, their focus is on family, leaving legacy, providing for their families when they're gone. So we want to make sure those pieces are put in place now, just in case. And then the last one, risk management and asset protection. You've worked hard to grow your money. Let's make sure we protect it as best we can, both from a risk perspective, security perspective. Again, from a digital asset point of view, we know there's a lot of bad actors out there. It seems like it's been getting worse. So we want to make sure we protect all of that.
Well, what I say about all that is you should only have to get rich once, right? So you talked about the wealth creation versus the wealth preservation component. I think a lot of people that work with us over their time in digital assets will likely come into a time when they have made it. They've done well, they've protected it and stewarded it up to that point. And you want to continue to do that into the future. And if you open yourself up to these other risks, or you aren't thinking about these things, you might have to try to get rich again, which is not a fun spot to be. So
Right. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy. And as you get older, it's harder to manifest that. But no, great point. So cash flow and goals-based planning. So back to the first pillar. One thing to clarify for either clients, potential clients, people who are thinking about building a financial plan, cash flow planning is not budgeting. I do not like budgeting. I would not push something that I don't like doing onto other people. Budgeting it's not fun. But we do want to get a sense of how much are you spending. We don't necessarily dive deep into where is all of your money going, how much are you spending on, different
coffees and
lattes or whatever. We're not getting down to that level. So you don't have to worry about us chastising you if you're, I don't know, paying for uh
50
upgraded,
subscriptions and
whatever it might be. But we do want to know how much cash is going out on a monthly basis and how much your cash is coming in. That's what we look at. And when we're doing income planning, one of the biggest goals is what your monthly, expense is, especially in retirement. And you'd be surprised, or maybe not, how many times we can ask clients, like, how much do you spend on a monthly basis? And they really don't have a good sense of that number. And I can empathize. I've been there at different periods of life where you're just trying to keep up. Money's flowing in, money's flowing out. Sometimes it feels like more money's going out than what's coming in. You're paying for this, you're paying for kids, you're doing whatever. But always good to sit down, take a few moments, whether you do it like on a quarterly basis, every 6 months, every year, whatever it might be, just get a sense of where do you stand from a cash flow standpoint? How much cash is going in? How much is coming in? How much is going out? That in and of itself, really, like if you take away one thing from this whole presentation, just having a handle on that, because we know lifestyle creep is real. If we can prevent that unnecessarily, that's again a huge leg up for you from a financial perspective. So understand again, cash flow, setting targets, always good to, again, from a goal perspective, having something to work for. Setting target savings rates, always good. When you look at your total net income or total income coming in, different rules of thumb. Everybody's situation is different. Anywhere from 10 to 15%. Some say 20%. Again, everybody's different in terms of how much to save, whether that's going into a retirement plan, brokerage account, whatever it might be going into. Just again, have some guidelines and some plans around that. And then make sure, in that savings, you're primarily saving for retirement, but those dollars could be going towards other goals too. Saving for college, like you mentioned before, Jake. Could be saving for a vacation. But earmarking dollars, and some people do very well with like different accounts for different things. I've heard of advisors recommending to clients that your paycheck goes into one account and then you pay yourself again out of that account. Again, whatever works for you. These challenges are not. We all face them. This is a human nature thing. We tend to get caught up in life, and we tend to kind of spend what's coming in. So getting a clear picture, you can put you way ahead of the game if you can do that. Where it starts to get more complex, where advisors can help and can step in, when you're trying to plan for multiple different goals, both short, medium, and long term, that can get challenging. Where to save, how to save, what assets to save in. When does that'll come down to, when do you need the money? If you need the money in a year, okay, then that's one decision on what we do with those dollars. If it's 5 years out, that's a different decision. If it's 10 years out, that's a different one. So again, trying to not only prioritize, but understand where to kind of best use those dollars. And that goes into, again, what's funded first, what's priority, those kind of things. So building out a plan, getting all those goals on paper, and if you're trying to go this alone, again, that's great. It's a good starting point, but definitely put something down on paper and review it on a regular basis.
There's a quote from Cody Sanchez. She got one from one of her mentors that I think, kind of resonates with what you were started the conversation with, which is money is a cruel mistress. And if you don't pay her any attention, she will leave you.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
the wealthiest people that I've talked to, they are extremely meticulous about their books. They know where every dollar is coming in and where it's going out. And this is what you're saying here, right? Like just pay attention to what the expenses are, where the money's coming from. I check my accounts every morning. I know where everything's at. I'm forecasting cash flows on a daily basis. Most people, I don't think, are doing that. I mean, I
mhm.
didn't until maybe 5 years ago. Was really, when started making some more money, it became more of a priority for me. But if you can instill those habits in your children or start to do them for yourself, that'll translate and help you a lot as your, fortune grows.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, to that point, it's not uncommon to have clients feel like they're behind the eight ball, regardless of income coming in. And obviously to a certain point, but people who make very, very, very good money can still feel like they're behind the eight ball because they don't have clarity on, again, their cash flow. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're living beyond their means, but there's just it's not a good feeling when you are looking at your bank statement and you're not sure where your money's going. So any clarity you can bring around that will definitely bring more peace of mind and probably peace in the household if I were to guess. So um, tax efficient investing and withdrawals. And let me make one quick point here. I could have made this one in the beginning, and maybe this tax one is a good place to make it. Certainly, we see more clients and more people interacting with AI across various different subjects. Jake, I know you've referenced using it. I use it. It's great. It's a great tool. On the financial piece of things, especially for critical decisions, I would just caution people because I've used AI for different financial modeling scenarios, asking it different questions, just to kind of, and even in my own personal financial life. Uh, AI still gets quite a few things wrong, especially on the financial piece. As an example, I was doing something on estate planning, and AI didn't realize that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act had passed. It referenced it and said, "If this passes," and this was like a month ago. And so it didn't realize that the estate exemptions had changed and all of that. So um, just be very careful. You know, one great thing about AI is when you really understand the subject that you're using AI for, it can be a real force multiplier. If you're looking to use it for something that you're not well versed on, it just can be more challenging because you're not sure what you're missing. So just something to keep in mind.
I think it's about the questions that you ask and how you ask them and how much data it has in order to be able to provide you the right information. And same with anybody else, right? If you ask a basic question, you're not going to get a very good answer. If you have a really intelligent question and you say, considering all of these things, which an expert, like you said, would have context to be able to provide the right question to get the right answer, it's going to be a much better tool.
Yeah. Yep. But man, it is pretty amazing. Okay. So tax efficient investing and withdrawals. So for you, looking at your portfolio, one thing you can do is try to, number one, diversify across different account types. So, we reference really three major account types. There's taxable accounts, there's tax deferred, and then there's tax free. So a taxable account, as an example, would be like a brokerage account, an individual account, an LLC type account. Tax deferred is usually like your IRA or 401k. Tax free, think of like Roth or again, Roth 401k. So depending on where you are in life, deciding where to put your funds can be a little bit easier. If you're younger and you're in the low income tax bracket, sometimes focusing on building out Roth makes sense. And then as you get older and your income goes up, you start to transition. But it is important to be diligent and put some effort into understanding which bucket your dollars are going into, because you'll probably want to have some flexibility in the future. Now, if you get, again, when you're younger, less critical. As you get older, get closer to retirement, get into your 40s, 50s, your high income years, it becomes a little more important to be diligent on what type of account am I saving into. Along with that, as you're saving, understanding what investments you're holding in those accounts is important too. So, as an example, in an individual account or a taxable account, we generally wouldn't want to necessarily hold mutual funds in those types of accounts, as an example, if we can avoid it. Mutual funds generate more taxes than what ETFs do. So typically in a taxable account, we'll want you to hold ETFs if we can. Um, in an IRA account, you want to hold typically income generating assets because we're not paying income tax until later. So again, just as an example, like holding bonds inside of an IRA account could potentially make sense. Sometimes you don't have the flexibility, but if we do, we try to, again, match the asset to the account type. And then Roth accounts, great for highly appreciating assets. So digital assets, individual stocks. Um, what we don't necessarily, and this is something to talk through with an advisor, if you start considering doing Roth conversions because you want to be able to put highly appreciating assets inside of a Roth, there are downsides to that in terms of the tax ramifications. So those types of things, always good to talk with your CPA or touch base with an advisor on. But these are things to start being cognizant of when you're saving and then when you're doing asset allocation inside your portfolio. The last piece is also tax loss harvesting. Most clients, most people listening to this are probably familiar with tax loss harvesting. We've certainly had opportunities on the digital asset side. There's certainly been opportunities lately on the individual stock side to do some tax loss harvesting. So kind of keeping an eye on your portfolio, what's doing well, what isn't, um, and then harvesting losses if it makes sense in your situation. Where advisors can kind of step in and provide more guidance is really along the lines of more long-term tax strategy. So we're looking at, again, cash flow and goals needs over a long period of time or further out into the future, and helping to align your portfolio so that when the time comes to draw that cash, you can do it in the most tax efficient manner. Uh, also things like concentrated positions, whether that be in stock or digital assets, and how to deal with those. And then as you get closer to retirement, we know you're going to start drawing down your assets for cash, doing reallocations across your portfolio and account types to start to prepare for that again, so we can minimize taxes in retirement. Are all places where a plan can really help in working with an advisor and a CPA.
Yeah. There's all kinds of different tools. I mean, there's insurance strategies, there's, tax advantaged accounts. Like there's really all these different types of wrappers that you can put the money into early to get it in there and it can grow in a tax advantaged way. And if you don't have somebody, that you're working with, whether that's your CPA or your certified financial planner or whoever else to help you navigate that, you may not understand all the different tools at your disposal and which ones might be best. If you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? But if you've got, a full tool belt and all of these different things that are at your disposal, you probably get a lot more done and it's probably going to go a lot faster and end up looking a lot better than just having
Yeah.
a bunch of nails.
Yeah. And the tax landscape is one that seems to shift quite a bit. Contribution limits for different types of accounts, you know, tax brackets, all kinds of different things on the tax front. So that's
Nuance.
one where, again, it's a little harder to keep up sometimes. Um, Retirement income planning. So, the goal for all of us is retirement at some point, whatever that looks like for each individual. Everybody has a different view of retirement. Some people, I ask them about retirement, and they get this fearful look on their face because they're not sure exactly what they're going to do when they get there. Other people are like, "Oh, I'm ready tomorrow, and here's exactly what I'm going to do." So, part of preparing for retirement, aside from the money side of things, I really do encourage you to think about purpose in retirement, because one of the biggest transition difficulties for retirees is going from having purpose through employment to suddenly lacking purpose because they haven't really planned ahead. Which sounds, for some of you, that might sound crazy. Like maybe you feel like I always reference bird watching. Maybe you feel like bird watching is your future, and you're gonna go across the country doing bird watching, and that's going to be your purpose, and that's great. Or maybe it's family or whatever. But again, something to think about and put effort into, because hopefully retirement's not too far away, and you want to make sure that you're ready mentally to kind of cross that threshold from drawing purpose from what was your employment to drawing purpose from something else. Um, so on the income planning thing aside, things that you can do currently. Um, so understanding, again, your cash flow needs, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Also trying to understand what a sustainable withdrawal rate is for your time horizon. Keep in mind, again, if you use AI, if you do research, if you do searching, you'll see things like the 4% rule, different drawdown rates that the people throw out there, rules of thumb, the new 4% rule, all kinds of different stuff out there. But remember, everybody's situation, I keep harping on this, is different. That's why I encourage everyone to have an individualized plan. So if you retire at 55, potentially your withdrawal rate, sustainable withdrawal rate, is going to be different than if you retire at 65 or you retire at 45 or you retire at 70, whatever the number might be. So always keep in mind, try to take that into account. Just because someone says 4%, you have to understand that's really under certain circumstances with certain portfolio allocations and all that. So put some effort into what you think a sustainable withdrawal rate over time will be. And then, again, just keep in mind, retirement income planning. So on the income planning thing aside, things that you can do currently. So understanding, again, your cash flow needs, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Also trying to understand what a sustainable withdrawal rate is for your time horizon. And you always want to plan for bad outcomes. Rarely do things go according to plan. So we want to make sure there's some safety net and some buffer built into your retirement plan so that we don't have to have perfect performance from your portfolio over time. Um, and then the last point, which we kind of already alluded to, but that mental shift from accumulation to decumulation or saving to spending is a very difficult one for a lot of people to make. They spent their whole lives saving, and now you're telling them to spend down this nest egg that they've built over time. And that is a huge mental shift. I've seen clients who make have a huge portfolio, have done very well, and they struggle to buy a new washer and dryer. It's just a human psychology behavioral thing. Everyone, for the most part, struggles with it. So as you approach retirement, that's just something, again, keep in mind and prepare yourself for. Um, on the planning side, where again an advisor can provide some value, additional value is once you get into retirement and you're drawing from your assets, where do you draw the cash from? Which account type? Is it for multiple account types? We have to account for Social Security in the future if you're taking any pensions or have a pension. Jake mentioned life insurance. Whatever vehicles, whatever savings vehicles you have, and again, depending on what your portfolio looks like, there are just nuances to how to effectively draw down a portfolio to minimize the tax impact. Because like I said in the beginning, one of the largest expenses in retirement for people can be taxes. So we want to minimize that as much as possible to give you more life out of your portfolio and your assets. And then the last piece, again, trying to plan for potential bad scenarios. One of those is certainly health risks. So we talk about different insurance products to help cover that. Long-term care, everyone I'm sure has heard of or had some experience with long-term care at some point in the past. Longevity risk is also a risk people don't really think about. Like I said, we plan for you to live into your mid 90s. Most people are like, there's no way I'm going to live that long. And then
Surprise.
there they are, 94. And then with all the stuff going on the medical front, who knows what's going to happen in the next 30 years. But we want to make sure that we plan for you to live a very long life. And we don't want to have the portfolio going to zero well, we can't plan for the portfolio to go to zero on the day you die. But just
Yeah. Can't spend that last dollar as you're
yeah,
crossing the line. I had 2 points because then we're a little bit over time here, and I want to get through stuff. But my neighbors done very well. They're in their 90s. They've upgraded nothing. They bought themselves all of their vehicles are like 5, 10 years old. I I have an idea of how much they have, and they do not spend it, which is great for their son and the other
yeah,
children they have. They'll be able to pass on a lot, right, and then help them out. The other thing I was going to say is, my definition of financial freedom is you have twice as much money coming from quote unquote passive. There's nothing that's completely passive, but quote
mhm,
unquote passive income every single month as what you need to live.
yeah,
Right. So that's I don't know what your buffer is, Tom, but I think that that would be a healthy buffer for most people because you are going to have other things that come up that you did not plan on. Unfortunately, we all go through health issues or other things in your life where money is needed in order to be
yeah,
able to help, facilitate that. And you're not going to be able to afford the best care or the things that you need to really, you know, get through whatever that is without the additional buffer. So then you got to make some
yeah.
hard choices, which isn't not fun.
Completely agree. Um, okay, I like you mentioned coming up against time. I'll try to speed it up a little bit
Oh,
here.
you're good.
Last couple slides. Actually, I think we may have two more. So estate planning and wealth transfer. Like I alluded to earlier on in the presentation or at the beginning, when clients ask like what things should I be doing, there's some foundational things on the estate planning side everyone should be doing, regardless of what your net worth is. So, the basic foundation for estate planning, the will, power of attorney, healthcare doctor directives, we recommend pretty much everyone put those in place. If you're single or newly out of college, just having a simple will and power of attorney probably makes sense. But even then, having a healthcare directives for what people should do if you become incapacitated, probably good for those that are going to be making the decisions or the ones that are kind of by your side. So that's a foundational thing. Plenty of clients I've talked to who are always like, that's been on the list, but I haven't gotten to it yet. Please get to it. Again, it's not something fun, like you're obviously planning for your death, but it's worth it. It's worth it, not necessarily for you, it's worth it for your loved ones. Um, and I know Jake has talked about trust structures and all those different things that, again, in some cases, really the benefit isn't for you, it's for the people that you leave behind. But either way, those foundational pieces, those three pieces, please, everyone, if you don't have those in place now, especially if you have kids, um, again, just gonna bite the bullet and get it done. On the beneficiary designation side, this is another one that you guys can do on your own. You don't need an advisor for this, but coordinating and making sure all of your beneficiaries, especially on your retirement accounts, are accurate. Tons of stories out there where people have gotten divorced, never changed their beneficiaries, they pass away. It happens. It is not a myth. It's not a rumor. Like those things have happened. I've seen them happen. And you don't want to rely on the goodwill of your ex to disavow the money and allow it to go to your other beneficiaries. So again, regularly keep up to date on your beneficiaries, especially if you change jobs, start new 401k plans, and keep those in mind. On the on the advisor side or the more complex side, obviously, as your net worth goes up, as your personal situation gets more complex, again, you add kids, if you have special needs kids, if you have other people who are dependent upon you, setting up more advanced estate structures certainly makes sense. Revocable trusts, family trusts, and then again, as your net worth grows, you've heard Jake talk about it, you've heard Dan talk about it, putting irrevocable trusts in place to help avoid estate taxes, reduce liability, all important. Um, okay, risk management, asset protection, last kind of the last pillar. This is another one where it tends to get overlooked. Like I said, in those conversations of like, what should I be looking at? Life insurance, at least at a minimum, making sure you have term life insurance to provide for your loved ones if you're have dependents, whether you have a wife or kids or someone depending on you. Different ways to size your life insurance need. Um, and everyone's different. Everyone's situation is different. This is where an advisor can be helpful or an insurance specialist. Disability coverage. We generally recommend everyone take advantage of disability coverage if you have it offered through your workplace. Most workplaces will cover 60%. Uh, if you can get it, get it. Depending on what job you have, if you don't have disability insurance available, you run your own business, we'll still have conversations with clients about, again, putting disability in place. Most people overlook it, but there's a huge percentage of people that have disability events in life and can't work. And then the last one is umbrella coverage. So we talk to clients about this too. Umbrella coverage is, think of it as excess liability coverage. So if you get sued, somebody, you have a kid, they get in a car accident, somebody trips on your front step, whatever it might be, we recommend looking at having umbrella coverage. You can get that typically through your home and auto provider. It's usually relatively inexpensive. Generally speaking, we recommend trying to match your umbrella coverage to your net worth. But that's one where you can protect yourself from a liability standpoint. So we always recommend, again, taking a look at that. And most insurance providers, like I said, will provide that coverage. You also, as part of looking through life, disability, umbrella coverage, are there any gaps? And then looking up, out into the future a little bit to prepare for, again, what's coming down the pipe. So as an example, like if you have kids getting ready to go into college, you know that that's going to be a big expense. If you have it covered already, great. If you don't, then that may be a reason why you need to have a little bit more life insurance coverage so that your spouse is okay if something happens, so they can still pay for college. But again, make sure, we don't want you to be overinsured. So overinsured can be, money not well spent. So trying to size your risk to your insurance certainly makes sense. And like I said, a lot of this you can get feedback from an insurance specialist or again, an advisor. Where it gets more complex is if you're a business owner, if you're an executive, there's some additional risk there. Cybersecurity and fraud, we could spend probably a whole presentation on this. I know Jake talks about it all the time. I would just say be hyper aware these days of everything. Like I said, we're seeing more and more people getting spam emails, um, getting hacked, and it doesn't take much. You just, if you're on Twitter or any social media, you see people downloading bad apps off the App Store, which should never happen. So just be very safe. Don't keep your seed phrase on your computer. I know people keep it like in the drafts of their email or in their notepad or whatever. Don't do that kind of thing. Just be super secure, especially on the digital asset side. I do recommend having like identity protection. Most of you probably have had your data stolen and have been offered identity protection by whoever it was that had the data stolen. Do recommend getting those put in place. Same on the credit side. um, it's important. Again, it's you don't want to have an issue going forward into the future. And then the last piece, just on the long-term care side, we do talk to clients, especially as they get into their 50s and into their 60s, about whether long-term care makes sense. That's usually about the time to start considering putting those kind of policies in place. But again, everybody's situation's a little bit different. So just to kind of sum up, what where clients struggle is having a clear picture of their financial situation. Right? We harped on that in the beginning in terms of the cash flow, but it really applies across your entire financial picture. You want your decisions all working, like the decisions you make to work across all areas of your financial life. We don't want a decision in one area to negatively impact another area. So we want to take all things into consideration. It is time consuming to, again, sit down and take a holistic view of everything in your financial life. That's where an advisor can come in and provide a lot of value. Make sure things are working together, make sure that they're working towards your goals and your cash flow needs into the future. So we're always here on the wealth side, again, to provide that kind of guidance. And our planning team is ready to help your advisor. So, kind of last but not least, like I said, and I already kind of covered some of this, but on the wealth management side, if you're working with DWP and you have questions on any of this, please reach out to your advisor. If you're not working with DWP, but you'd like to work with an advisor, you can reach out to our support. There's numerous ways to get in contact with the wealth side. So just again, reach out if you want to talk to an advisor. We've got plenty of advisors happy to help. We do have our planning team. So advisors can put you in touch if you want to build a holistic plan. And again, it's just really about providing clarity and peace of mind. Those are the big pieces.
And we have software that's specific for this as well. That we utilize with our client base. It's a bit more robust than just some of the stuff you could get off the street or you would find online if you were to look for it. Um, like Mike or like Tom said at the beginning of this, I think everybody needs some type of plan. It doesn't need to be, it can be basic if your situation's basic, but as it gets more complex, there's more tools at your disposal, and having a good professional that can help walk you through all those different options, I th- I would say is a necessity. It made a big difference for me, and you guys have kind of seen my journey, over the time. If you've followed me for years, there's been more and more tools that I've learned about and then shared with the community and talked through, and that won't stop. I'm sure that there will be plenty more that we continue to create ourselves, which is the cool part about what we do at DAG. And also, it's marrying the traditional wrappers and things that exist with all these new financial instruments and progressive assets that you guys are invested in. So, anything else you'd like to close with? Don't read the disclosure again.
Yeah, I won't subject anybody to that. Uh, no, as always, we really appreciate our clients. So if you're a client of DWP and you're here, you made it to the end of this, greatly appreciate it. If you're not a client, we still greatly appreciate you sitting through this presentation. Hopefully, you got some use out of it. I think um, I don't want to speak for DAG as a whole, but I will a little bit in that. Like, we're all here to help you guys make better financial decisions. And in any way, shape, or form that we can do that. So, again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. There are no dumb questions. Like I said, advisors have seen every and any case out there. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, don't feel like you can't reach out because you're embarrassed or you're, like I said, worried that we're going to slap a budget on you. We're not going to do that.
No judgment.
Yeah,
Just
we're here to look
help.
at your whole financial picture, give you clarity, give you peace of mind, and again, help you achieve your goals and the cash flow you need for those goals.
Awesome. Well, you guys made it to the end. Appreciate you watching. As always, just you can go to digitalwealthpartners.net currently, but as of next week, it will be dag.com. that you can, email the team, support team. All that'll just be, right now it's support or info@digitalwealthpartners.net if you want to reach out. But as of next week, again, the rebrand will be done. Just be support or info@dag.com. So with that, we'll wrap it. Thanks you guys for taking time out of your Friday, and look forward to working with you, hopefully at some level in the future, if we're not already. And enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you on the next one.